Kulumjari. Welcome to Finding the Voices. I am Monica Ingadam. Today I am with Brenda Terry, who is an acupuncturist and Chinese herbalist, joining me from North Carolina in America. I have always wondered about acupuncture and wanted to learn more about it, and today Brenda will be sharing about promoting health and well-being through acupuncture, Chinese herbal formulas, nutrition, and lifestyle alteration. Hi Brenda, how are you doing?
Good morning, Monica. Doing well.
Thank you so much for joining me at Finding the Voices.
My pleasure.
How did you get into becoming an acupuncturist?
Well, I know it was my fascination with the human body has fueled me all my life. I have a degree in speech pathology and audiology. I eventually went back to nursing school. Didn't quite finish nursing school because it didn't feel quite right. But the whole time, always hovering around something involving the human body and healing of the human body. Eventually, just meandered my way to the more natural approach, living a healthy lifestyle, living yoga and different things like that. Had broken and actually shattered my radius, and kind of all those things just kind of led me to an acupuncturist and developed a relationship with an acupuncturist I was seeing in Northern Virginia at one point, and then just from there just decided that it was something that I wanted to pursue.
Can you share a little bit about your schooling?
I went to acupuncture school in Austin, Texas. My program, which left me with a master's degree, was a 4-year program, year-round. It was rather grueling, more so than I had anticipated. I was fortunate enough during that period of time to go to China and study with the study program. We do a trip every 2 years, and that was fascinating. So, yes, 4 years, and then after 4 years, 4 national board exams, gut-wrenching board exams, but passed all of those, and then was granted licensure in the state of North Carolina.
Okay, and you mentioned, as part of your program, you had to go to China. Can you share a little bit about your trip and your learnings while you're in China?
The trip to China is optional, but we did get credit for it. I went, it was a 6-week program. We went to many places. We started out in Beijing, and then we did most of the study in a hospital, Chengdu University Hospital, TCM, which is traditional Chinese medicine. We did study there for 3 weeks, and then we went to Ume Mountain, and I'm not sure which town that's in, where we studied Tai Chi and Qigong with Master Wu. At that point of that stage of the trip, it was becoming spring, and so we'd walk to a monastery and out into the woods to practice this, and it was amazing. And then the final week, we were invited to go into Tibet. However, the borders were closed, and we were not granted that ability. So our leader, Dr. Chen, decided that we would do kind of some sightseeing and get a better feel for the culture. And so we went to a bunch of little towns, Dali, Xi'an, Lijiang. And we also were able to see the terracotta warriors the last week of the trip, which was amazing and incredible. And then after 6 weeks in China, the long journey home, it was an incredible trip. Lots of interesting experiences in the hospital, which is a hospital that treats 4,000 people a day.
Wow.
It's a hospital, but kind of a clinic at the same time. I studied in a bunch of different departments, oncology, respiratory, neurology, and each time we were in the office with the doctor, very different than what we're used to in the United States. We're crowded in behind the doctor's desk, and there's simply a line of people waiting to see him. And there's no privacy. Everyone talks, and the people on the line throw in their comments, and there's laughter, and there's conversation. And of course, we have an interpreter, as none of us speak Chinese. And the doctor gives an herbal prescription. Some of these people just have a common cold. Some of these people have had chemotherapy. Some have had surgery, all different types of conditions. And they just come in, they get their herbal formula, they go down to the pharmacy, they fill it, and they're on their way. I don't think there are any appointments. You just show up and you just stand in line and you wait. It's just super interesting, really interesting.
So when you mentioned about privacy, you mean the treatment or the consultancy is in the open with the, I don't know, would you call the person a doctor or an acupuncturist or Chinese herbalist?
They're all of the above.
Okay.
Yes, they're medical doctors. But in China, they use everything. They use everything at their disposal. And one thing I found particularly interesting in the oncology department was that they don't separate. If someone's receiving chemotherapy and they may have had surgery or they may have had some radiation, but they're taking herbs at the same time.
I see.
They use a much stronger chemotherapy there and give a longer period of time between treatments. So they start herbs right away and take herbs the entire time. So that's a little different than the way we do it here.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, and then the concept of not having to take appointments, you just show up, be on the line, and when your turn comes up, you are given the consultancy and then the required herbs.
Correct.
That sounds very interesting for you to go over there and learn and see, how people are treated and even the process of it.
Yes.
Wow.
They're very, very different than here.
Where do you practice now, and what are you specialized in?
I practice now in Charlotte, North Carolina. In fact, I've just changed my venue. I've joined forces with a yoga company, and so it's all yoga and all acupuncture at this particular site. And I think they go hand in hand. That's going to work really well. I would say my specialty is becoming pain. I treat more pain than anything else so far. Back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain seem to be the folks that gravitate towards me. And so I do an awful lot of that. Hip pain. Yesterday I had hip pain.
I guess personally for me and also people whom I've spoken, when we talk about acupuncture, maybe it's a lack of knowledge. But we generally feel, it is medically related, so we don't correlate with similar to us choosing for massage in spa. Can you shed a little of your thoughts and light when we feel like going to a spa or a salon? Could we opt for acupuncture? Could that, provide some relief to our body?
Yes, most definitely. In other words, what does acupuncture treat? Acupuncture is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, most comprehensive medical systems still in use today. And ideally, or kind of in a nutshell, what it does is you treat the outside to treat the inside. What it does is stimulate the immune system of the body by balancing out the energy throughout the body so that the body can once again heal itself, which is what it's meant to do. The human body always strives to rescue itself, to keep itself in check. It has so many little warriors inside the body that check on this and check on that, and if something odd is detected, then it brings in more of the forces of the body to try and take care of whatever the problem might be. So acupuncture helps to encourage that. It is really a more preventive medicine. It certainly can treat anything that comes in, depending on the condition of the patient, the age, the overall health of the patient, how long the condition has lasted. All those things come into play. But acupuncture and Chinese herbs are a very large part of what I try to do. But both combined, and oftentimes with other, I talked earlier about neck and shoulder pain. Acupuncture, chiropractic, and massage are great complements to one another. So sometimes, in many cases, more than one medium is the right key. Each person has to decide for themselves. But Acupuncture definitely will boost the systems of the body so that the body can once again heal itself. You mentioned stress at one point. Excellent for stress. Obviously, I can't remove the stresses of anyone's life, but I can boost the system that deals with the stress so that when something comes at you, you're better able to deal with it without losing sleep or losing your appetite or getting a headache or those types of things that go along with stress. That make sense?
Okay, yeah. I guess just wanted to get a sense of why should we opt for acupuncture over spa or, going to the chiropractor, because it's kind of confusing for each of them. Spa and salon are more luxurious and you don't associate that with medically ill. And chiropractor, again, it's more like, okay, you really have a back pain, so you have to go to the chiropractor. But acupuncture, like you said, it's more preventive. If I understood correctly, it's more preventive, and we could utilize it in conjunction with, the other practice.
Yes, it is from day one more preventive. It certainly does treat, like I said, I do a ton of back pain. It certainly does treat conditions that are already existing, and quite effectively. It's true. Who wouldn't rather have a massage than lay down and have needles put into them? I mean, that makes perfect sense. The one sounds wonderful and the other one sounds very scary. The needles are so thin, like the size of a piece of hair, that typically you don't feel them. There, of course, are some that are more sensitive than others, of course. It's like a pinprick and then it goes away. I tell you, massage is great, and I get one at least once a month, too. Acupuncture tries to find, as I said before, the root cause so that the symptoms don't keep cropping up. Finding the root, treating the root, the symptoms fall by the wayside, and you'll be all the better for it. And I tell you, I treat every single person on my table with a few stress points, because everyone has stress to a certain degree. Most people leave so relaxed, they're absolutely amazed that they have been laying on the table with needles in them. They get up, and they just feel so utterly calm and serene afterwards. So it's great for that. It's just great for that.
Okay. So you mentioned a little bit about the needle. Yeah, you're right. People, I think, and even myself, like when we see the videos and pictures of acupuncture session, like you get intimidated by the needle. But what you're saying is, I have never done it, but I really want to try it. It's not a painful procedure. And how many needles are we talking about, like for regular session? I'm sure it depends from session to session and the type of treatment, but just to get an idea.
It does depend. I like to use less than 20 needles per person. The diagnosis is really the toughest part of acupuncture. If I can really get a good diagnosis, the fewer needles used, the better. So it really does depend on what I'm working on. If I'm working on something locally, like yesterday I had hip pain, so I surrounded the point of pain with 5 needles, just 5 needles, and did a few other body needles and put a little bit of electricity to the painful area, and she was better when she got off the table. Now, there is a treatment called facial rejuvenation, which requires a lot more needles because you go into the face, and depending on what you're trying to treat, lines, wrinkles, different things, you would use more needles because you also add a body treatment in with that as well. So it really does depend on what's being treated, the individual, how long the whatever process is in the works has been in existence. It depends, as does the number of treatments required. Some people feel amazing results after just one treatment. Some people take longer. Some people don't come in as often. So there are so many factors. I had one young gal who had a car accident and had pain on one side of her head. I treated her 6 times, and I changed up the treatments trying to figure it out. It never did anything for her. So it doesn't work for everyone, but for most people, it's truly amazing. I've had some amazing results personally with acupuncture, so it really does depend. I know that sounds really vague, but it totally depends.
Okay. So, I mean, you mentioned a very interesting point about facial rejuvenation.
Yes.
Is that something similar to getting a facial massage?
Yes, it is. It is done in lieu of surgery. It is a quite amazing process, actually, because hopefully I can make this make sense without having a diagram in front of you. There are so many channels on the face. You have large intestine, small intestine, gallbladder, stomach. And each one of those is paired with another channel. So you're also treating the lung, the liver, the heart, and the spleen. So pretty much all of the internal organs will be addressed by doing facial rejuvenation. As of course will the face. Typically the way I perform facial rejuvenation is with a little bit of facial Tui-Na to begin with some sesame oil and pearl powder. Tui-Na is a form of Chinese massage. So I do the Tui-Na first, and then I clear the face of the oil, and then I do the needling, which is going to address all of these different channels, as I mentioned. And then I do a body treatment as well. Before I start, I look at the tongue of the patient. The tongue is a huge diagnostic tool that gives us a real clear idea of what's going on inside the body. And then I also feel the pulse as well, another diagnostic tool that tells us all about what's going on inside the body, if the pulse is fast, if it's slow. There's a lot of things it tells us. So I'll check those things at the beginning of the treatment, do the Tui-Na, put the needles in. I'll also do a body treatment. Now, there are certain points that are what are called command points. So they're the big points. One for the face, one for the head and neck. So I'll hit both of those. And then just do some other really good tonifying points for the body. And typically that treatment takes a little bit longer. Those needles should be in for about 45 minutes. And then you take them out. And the last person I did, she honestly felt she saw a change after one treatment. I thought that was miraculous because this treatment is 2 treatments a week for 5 weeks. And then you do maintenance every 6 to 8 weeks. And the results are said to last 3 to 5 years. So it's a really amazing treatment. I've had it done. My allergies were great during that. I slept great during that period of time. I just felt really good because it treats the entire body and balances out the entire body. So it's a really, really great treatment.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting. So you said for it to be effective, it's a 5-week treatment twice a week. For the different session you have, like do you have different type of needles? And if the needles, when you put, is it plain, as in you don't put anything, no oil or, any ingredient?
Sure. In the United States, we use only one-time use sterile needles. There are different sizes. Once they're used, they go into a sharps container as if you had just gotten an injection, which you normally see in the doctor's office, those red containers. Each needle goes into that, never gets used again. There are many different sizes, different sizes of the needle, different lengths of needles. What you use pretty much is dictated by the area of the body you're needling and what you're needling for. You tend to use a larger needle in a more muscular area. The needles that I use in the facial rejuvenation we were just talking about are not quite an inch long. They don't even need to be a half an inch because they barely go into the skin, and they're very thin. There are needles that are used in the hands, that are also used in the ears. They're very short. There are a lot of different types. They're not hollow needles, as you would receive an injection with. They're just a piece of stainless steel, and they're not especially sharp, though they are sharp enough to penetrate the skin. They each come with a plastic guide tube, and that's what helps get them into the skin because they bend really easy. They're very, very flexible, so it's very difficult to needle without a guide tube. I've had people wonder about falling asleep on the treatment table and worrying about rolling over onto the needles and that type of thing. I've never had anyone roll over. I've had many people fall asleep. I've had many people snoring before, and that's fine. That's encouraged, in fact. But even if you were to roll over, the needles just bend. They just bend with you. So there's very, very little opportunity for injury. I will not say that there won't be bleeding. Sometimes there are a few drops of blood when you take a needle out. And that's merely the body knowing that that channel is congested with blood and needs to get rid of a little bit of that. And oftentimes the pain is so much better after that. Sometimes there's a little bit of bruising, and sometimes there's a little bit of almost like a histamine reaction, like a little bit of an allergic reaction, like a little bit of redness and tiny bit of swelling at the needle site. Those are all common things that happen. But it would be very rare that anything internally could be damaged, like puncturing a lung or an organ, anything like that. The needles simply aren't long enough to do that, and as I said, they bend so easily, they barely disrupt anything. As I said, you need the guide tube to get them in. It's not even that easy to get them into the skin. So it really is a very, very safe, sterile, and effective treatment for most anything.
Okay. This needles, like, you have indicated it is used only once, they are sterile. So you do not put any ingredients for any of the session, is it? It's just a plain needle, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share a little bit about the pricing for the package for the facial rejuvenation you spoke about?
Yes. For the facial rejuvenation, I do a package. It's 10 treatments, and the treatments are $120 a piece. Each one starts with the tween as I talked about, and then the needles and the body treatment. So that's a package of 10, and that's $1,200. Each one of those sessions is a good hour. The first one's going to be an hour and a half easily. Beyond that, they're a little less. We don't have to do as much talking and intake in the beginning. We just go right ahead into the treatment. So they take a little less time. The one thing that we haven't touched on yet is herbal formulas. I think that herbs are a huge part of what I do. They're not necessary. They just give a more rounded and supported treatment. Chinese herbs are completely different than pharmaceuticals. In that, of course, they're all completely natural, but the way they act is completely different. They do take some time to build up in the body so that they can do what they're meant to do. What they do is support the systems of the body, just like the acupuncture does, and they boost the natural immunity. If I decide that you have a liver issue, now that would not mean your actual liver function, but it would mean the function that the Chinese put to the liver. Now, for instance, the liver system has everything to do with all of the emotions, from depression to rage, and anything in between. The eyes, the sinews and tendons, to name a few. Those are things you can relate to. if I decide that's what your issue is, then I'm going to probably give you Jalo Shiasan. And so what this particular formula does, it boosts the liver system. It calms the liver system if the issue is rage, tonifies or nourishes the liver system, and gets it rebalanced again so that you don't, if your issue is depression and rage or any combination between, so that you don't have the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs, it gets you more even and more level. Initially, you start taking the herbs probably 3 times a day, and a fair amount of it initially to get it into the system. And as you become more balanced, you take less and less and less of it. And you learn throughout that period of time some other lifestyle changes that can help with stress or depression or whichever system whichever the way it's manifesting in you, the liver system is manifesting. You learn ways to deal with it, and so you end up not needing the herbs any longer.
So you are saying that there are herbs which we can take, and obviously because they are herbs, there won't be much of side effects, which would help us be calm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are most of the herbs which you have for us to take in as an eat, or are some of them for applying in the body? How does that work, and what are the types, if you can share a little bit on that?
I have herbs that can treat any number of things. The herb form that I use is pills. There are several different forms or powdered formulas, and of course there are the raw herbs that you would have to soak and cook and this type of thing. I find that it's difficult for people to even be compliant with the pills, which is what we're used to taking. So I stay with pills. I have formulas that can treat everything. I have formulas for fibroid tumors in the uterus. I have headache. I have allergies. I have fertility. I have arthritis herbs. I have impotence herbs. I have herbs that can treat anything because, once again, we treat the symptoms and we treat the channel, the energy channel that relates to whatever the symptoms are. So by, once again, finding out what the root cause is, that dictates what the herbal formula is.
Okay, wow. That's interesting to know that it is in the form of pills. For the user, it is easier, as we are, I guess, more used to taking in the pill format. This is such a wonderful discussion. Did I miss anything in terms of, what you want to highlight of what you do before we go into the last couple of questions?
Well, I don't know if I have answered the real questions of why would I come to you, what does it treat, those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
I've told you that it can treat everything, and why would I do this as opposed to massage or anything else or anything, chiropractic, whatever. I guess what I would say to that is that if you're interested in a holistic approach to health, a natural holistic approach to health, and continued good health, this is a good way to go. Between acupuncture is not the only treatment that I do. I would say that most people get acupuncture, but there's acupuncture with electricity. There's acupressure, which I don't do much of. There's something called cupping, which is very good for neck, back, and shoulder pain. Something called gua sha. There are other treatments that qualify as traditional Chinese medicine, so it's not just needles. But there's different that can be incorporated, and I can use several of those during one treatment to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. And I just, as I said, if you're looking for a good natural approach to everything, to your health, this is a great way to go. It's different than Western medicine. It's not as immediate It does take more time. It takes more dedication, but it works naturally with the body, and it's just it's amazing. I've just seen amazing things with it.
Right, and I think the most important takeaway for me is that it is preventive. It is a way for us to maintain, a healthy lifestyle in a natural approach.
Yes.
Right. It's a way for us to maintain our health regularly and in a preventive way.
Correct.
Right, and also I think it was very educating to know about when you spoke about the facial rejuvenation, because I think, like you said, it is from the face, but because the needle does touch, I don't know what you call it, a Chi point, which, relates to all the organs. So it's like a whole body treatment. So I really like that.
Yes.
Okay.
So it really is.
Right. Yeah, and then, of course, I love the fact that you shared about the herbal concept and, what it does. And, of course, you had spoken about this based on the symptoms, be it fertility, impotence, stress, depression. It could be a number of, many symptoms. And there are different herbs for that.
Yes.
Okay, so what would you say the challenges you face as part of your work?
Well, my greatest challenge is getting the word out, marketing, exposing people to this, getting the audience to do this with, to spread the word. I studied diligently for 4 years, and I know how to treat you if you have an issue. And if I don't, I know I have many resources that I can consult to find out how to. But as far as marketing, that's my biggest challenge. And when I talk to someone, the needle fear that people have, those are the two biggest.
And I totally agree with you on that. I myself heard about acupuncture, but I guess the needle fear, and you don't know much about it. People don't know what it can do. So I think it's more of education and, spreading the word and how it helps and, what are the potential and things like that. What is the best part of your work? What part, of your role do you enjoy the most?
The best part is someone getting up off the table and the sheer look of surprise and amazement on their face when they realize the pain's not there anymore.
Wow.
It's awesome.
Right.
It's an awesome feeling to know that all that time I studied, all that stuff I did to get here is so worth it, because someone who hasn't been able to get relief elsewhere is on the table for however many sessions or even one session, and boom, they're not feeling the pain anymore. It's a great feeling. And there's so many great people doing this. There's so many interesting people, and as I tend to educate, as I'm training someone, I explain what I'm doing, I explain why I'm doing it. People are fascinated. And it oftentimes makes them just want to learn more. And when I introduce Chinese nutrition to them, they're even more fascinated and just want to learn more and more about it. So I love that part of it too, kind of like the teaching part of it I like.
All right. So thank you so much for sharing all this wonderful story, and I think it's been very enriching for me and also I'm sure for our listeners. And good luck with your career ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening and sharing my journey of finding the voices. Please feel free to send me any comments or feedback. Suggestions as to who to interview are most welcome. If you believe in what I am doing and want to contribute in any way, please contact me. This is your show to voice what you want, what you stand for, what you believe, and what you want people to know and talk about. And if you enjoyed the show, share it to your friends, and please come back again to FindingTheVoices.com. Yam Namai Jai.